Tim Goldstein, autistic adult, and your host for Life in a Neurotypical Universe, where we take a look at life from the perspective of an autistic adult. This is the second episode of Life in the Neurotypical Universe, speaking with Danny Combs. And Danny Combs created the organization called TACT, which stands for Teaching the Autism Community Trades. And they recently moved into a new, large, gorgeous facility and have been doing this for 7 years, where they teach anywhere from the currently 18 to 40-year-old autistic individuals how to have the skills and such to be employed in the trades. And they have a placement rate that is just incredible. So if you keep falling for that crazy statistic that 85% of autistic individuals are unemployed, I think we can bust that myth right here, because Danny has a placement rate that is even higher than 85%. Well, we had a great time talking with him in the beginning part, which if you didn't listen to it, please go back and listen to that episode. You'll get a great intro and discussion about how TACT came to be and who Danny really is. And in this part, we are going to continue on with our discussion, where we will not only talk more about Danny and TACT, but we'll also talk about the Colorado Neurodiversity Chamber of Commerce, which Danny's one of the co-founders of. So listen in, share this with your friends, and if you missed the first one, make sure you go back and catch that episode of Life in the Neurotypical Universe, where we introduce Danny Combs.
We had one kid, for example, to come to TACT. After 15 minutes, you could see the way he was talking, or not really talking, not yet, was moving, and kind of just his body language that he was really liking it and starting to take into it. And this was with a partnership, because we work with all different kinds of schools. And then after 45 minutes, all of a sudden started talking. And his teacher, that was like his comprehensive, math science teacher that had come with him, came up to us and was like, I've been teaching this kid for months and I've never heard him say a word. And how powerful is that when you can set somebody up in that situation, that all of a sudden those other attributes start coming out? Because I think, and I could be wrong, and I would definitely love to learn from you your opinion, but I find that when you set up any individual in a situation, and neurodistinct individuals included, where they can be successful, then all of those things that they even recognize in themselves, whether they're ready or able to express them outwardly, they recognize, hey, I'm in a safe, comfortable environment where I can be successful, and then are willing to venture into expressing or attempting to express other things that they may not have been. And I wonder sometimes with my son, who's become very articulate and very expressive, but was definitely, like I said, he was 6.5 before he said, hello, I love you, Dad. And when I look at him now and where he's at, I wonder, and I would like to believe, like, yay, Dad, like I'm doing something right, where he feels so loved that he's willing to open up his shell. Like if it was part of him being guarded at first and not feeling comfortable to be who he was, or to express something, or I don't know, I'm just rambling at this point, but that's where I always wonder. And I've seen that, and I would welcome to hear your experience too on that, because I don't know the science behind that, but we see that all the time, where these kids seem to unlock this amazing thing that we didn't know they could do, despite, all the fancy degrees and all of our experience, and the specialists that have, all the other special, comma / something under their name, comma / something else, didn't seem to recognize either. And I don't know what that is, but I would love to hear your opinion on what you see.
There's so much there. I'd say first thing, and this is advice to parents of autistic kids. If your kid's into whatever the thing is, no matter how bizarre it seems, as long as it's not dangerous. If they want to go play in the middle of the street, that's not a good thing. Right. But no matter how crazy the thing is, indulge them, help them, further it, because I think what you're really tapped into with those people is maybe they didn't even know that was a special interest, but you hit on a special interest.
Yeah.
And that's truthfully how I probably became as conversant as I had. Even though I was monotone, I still became conversant because I was working in the bike business because that was something I loved. And sooner or later, the independent store gets busy, so they haul you out of the shop and say, just talk to somebody till a salesperson can get to them. Well, hey, I had no problem talking to him because we were talking about bicycles. It was like, I talked to you. Actually, it was so bad when I was probably 18, 17, I don't know. And I wanted a custom-built frame, so custom-built 10-speed frame.
Okay.
And that's all I wanted for Christmas, period. And I was so annoying about it that my mother said to me, every time I hear from you say anything about a custom-built frame, I'm taking $1 away from whatever it is I'm going to give you.
Yeah.
So, and she was very encouraging on me trying just about anything I wanted to try. So it wasn't that she stifled me by any means. I was just totally annoying in this point. But I think what you're hitting upon is when you get them in that environment that they're realizing their special interest. It's something that they're enjoying. They're seeing their skill in it, their ability, their desire in it. And whatever that is, it really doesn't matter what it is, whether it's music, whether it's arts, whether it's hand-on stuff, writing computer code. You find what it is that the kid likes, and it's amazing. You get all this rest of the stuff out of them because they're so excited about that even though they haven't been saying anything forever, it's just going to come bubbling out because they're just, having the time of their life. So I'd say that's one thing is you're tapping into, and probably just knowing how the world is these days and opportunities that kids have. It's not like you and I growing up where there was, dad's box of tools and dad was showing you how to do stuff and you went and played with him when you wanted to go try something and that was okay too. Kids don't get a chance to try a lot of this stuff. So you're suddenly introducing them to something that it's just a revelation to him that, oh my gosh, this is so cool and I can do it. And I've always dreamed about making things. So I think that's one piece. Another thing I would say is it would be ideal, if we could wave the magic wand and change the entire world, that we got rid of the traditional interview. Unfortunately, humans have certain qualities that are inbred in us. It's evolutionary. And there was this thing called civilization that formed somehow. And long time back, but I don't know. Some people would say it still isn't here yet, but that's another story, right? But when you think about what is the things that causes humans to come together into civilization, and one is feeling that you're part of my group, that you're safe. It's safe. You're not from that land over there of those people that are dangerous to us.
Yeah.
And that's deeply inbred. And you can't, it doesn't matter how many DEI classes you take. You can't take out of the fact that built down in our hard-coded in us, or in a lot of us, I think there's some, again, like most of the traits, it varies. Some people have less of it. Some people have more of it. But I think overall, hard-coded in us, what helped us become civilized people was that binding together over common things. And you can't, I just say you can't beat human traits, human nature. Human nature is human nature. No matter how much training, how much schooling, how many letters we have after our name, human nature for a lot of people says, if I don't feel an emotional connection with you, you're not one of me and you're not going to work out here.
Yeah.
And it's not that person being bigoted or biased. I mean, yes, I guess you could say it's bigoted and biased, but the reality is that's evolutionary. It's just there. You just got to accept it's there. So I think, to me, that's one of the big problems with the Autism at Work programs that started in the mid-teens through the big tech companies, was they didn't take into account that their program would never integrate those people into the rest of the company. It would give them jobs, but it wouldn't change the company to be more accepting to other people. So we still have these isolated islands, and it doesn't really work. So I think that's one thing that we just have to accept is there is, no matter how the interview process works, whether it's I come out and I'm going to observe you doing something, so more of a hands-on type thing, there's still that human element of how I'm going to judge you based on do I like you or not.
It's true.
And one of the things that, and this is where the whole emotional speaking thing comes in. And I don't look at it as being masking. Some people say, oh, you're masking. And to me, it's not masking. It's like if we went to, I don't know, whatever country and wanted to go have some good food and fine art. Well, most of those countries that have great food and fine art, well, I guess in America, we have some good food and some good art, but we imported a lot of it. So if we go to the original countries, they use different languages than we use. And if we were to learn a few words of their language, like where's the bathroom is probably a good start. Is that masking, or is that simply using this tool called, whether it's French or Italian or Chinese or wherever it is we decide to go have the good food and see the fine art? Is that masking, or is that just using a tool? And I think it's just using a tool. Because it's not changing who I am. I'm not trying to conform to all of their norms and standards. I'm simply recognizing that to make this connection that I need to accomplish what I want, I need this tool that's called their language. And to me, that's where the emotional part of the speaking comes in. Can I get by without it? Well, I did pretty well in my career getting by without it. But I'll tell you, it's been a whole lot easier since I learned to do it. And it's just a tool for me. It doesn't change who I am. It doesn't make me a different person. It just I recognized that it made people more willing and more open to listen to what I had to say because they felt more comfortable interacting with me.
Do you find, Tim, that what's helped you? Like, I wonder, when I think about where our kids are successful when they get placed in genuine culture inclusivity, and kind of like we were talking about those workforce programs where they didn't work, is it the passion of our community with what they're exceptional at, that's the attraction? And if we looked at it like that, so an example, we've got some kids in our auto program. We started in a 58 Chevy because if you're going to do it, you do it with style. And everybody knows classic cars. Or if they don't know, they should know.
Sorry, I'm a Ford guy.
Yeah. Well, Ford stands for old rugged dads. So that there was so much style and there was so much creativity, and we have some kids in our program that are just brilliant, that also love classic cars. And we'll just use this as an example. And like, we've done things where we go to, field trips to classic car dealerships that we partner with and such. And we've got some of our kids that will walk through and they'll look at all these classic cars and they'll be able to recognize, hey, that engine's wrong. It should be this. That transmission is incorrect. That radiator isn't original. That batteries, just random little things. The displacement of this engine should actually be X, Y, and Z. And it's their passion. And they'll talk to these car guys and they'll be like, or guys and girls, I should say, just guys, but the car folk, and be like, this is my passion, and it's evident. It radiates from them. And then that level of attraction from those dealerships comes with, man, this kid likes this. Like, this is somebody that I want that's passionate about it. Like, that comes across. And it's that level of attraction, what their passion is. Like, if you being successful with tech, you speak so articulately and so well from it, it's clear that you're passionate about it, that you are engaged with it, that you like it. When you talk fondly about, your dad, about like the mechanic shop, about all of those different things, it's radiating this level of how could it not be attractive, because it's something that's clearly of value to you. And I wonder, like when we do like for T.A.C.T, for example, we do a lot of in-person interviews and we let the skills take place and we let those kids have the opportunity to express what they're passionate about. Because if you find that strength, you put them into that strength and develop that can become a passion at that point. And then when it's their passion, it just exudes confidence. And like, I mean, our kids will walk to the classic car dealership, and if somebody's like, oh, that's a 390, and the kid's like, no, that's a 302. And then if the dealership was going to argue, be like, no, it's a 390, the kid would let them know, oh no, it's a 302. And then that confidence, right? Because the kid's usually right. How do you not find that as like, shit, that's something I want for my employees that have that passion and that knowledge that they're going to be successful in that can overcome so much, quote, deficit that people have. I can't stand when people look at it like that, but like, it seems like it alleviates a lot of the interview process when that's able to set them up for success to express that passion. I was curious. I mean, do you see that? I mean,
I think what's happening in those cases is when you have this other person obviously has the interest too, the
right.
Shop owner or foreman or whatever, just another car nut guy or gal, one of the pop the hoods up, get together at the parking lot kind of things. When you start talking to their passions, we don't care. You're no longer a foreigner. You don't have to fit in because of these other cues and signals say you're one of us. You're one of us because you love what I love.
Yeah.
And you probably saw that more than anything in the music biz.
Yeah.
When you got down to the Nashville in the music biz, did you really care where the person came from, what country they came from, what color skin they came from, what gender they were, how they identified? No, it was all the same passion to make music.
Yep.
And finding a shared passion, I think, cuts through just about every level of negative thought and bigotry you could have towards any person if they share the same passion as you do. Because how can I not like you if you like the stuff I like?
Exactly. Yeah. But how do you set kids up for success to discover that passion? And I think that is one of the things, if we can, like, at the end of the day, if you were to ask me, and you didn't ask this, but let's pretend you did, and you said, Danny, what do you want T.A.C.T to be remembered for when I'm this old gray guy, hopefully still with good hair, but, this long time from now, like what would I want people to look back at? I would hope that people would look that we found a way for individuals to discover their passion, gave them the confidence and the opportunity to explore that, and gave them a future that was based upon that. What they did with that at that point, that's theirs. I mean,
I think that would be absolutely wonderful. Growing up, you might have been a little too young for it. I was kind of towards, I think, the tail end of it. The erector set, that was the metal thing that you bolted together, the erector set pieces, and you could build almost anything with one of those. And just the things that were available. My brother had this, crazy nice chemistry set that probably had more deadly chemicals in it than the EPA would allow in a fully monitored factory these days. Just all these kind of things were, I'm 63 now, so I go back. I was born in 59, so I grew up in the 60s as a kid mostly. And I also lived on a farm, so that probably also opened up some of the possibilities. But you were able to explore interests. You were able to pursue interests. You were able to try different things and find out what you liked. I happened to have joined Cub Scouts and then Boy Scouts, and my dad wasn't a outdoors person. He wasn't an outdoorsman. He I'm convinced was autistic, and he did two things. He worked and he slept, and he loved his work. And as far as I know from the people that he worked with and such, he was phenomenally good at what he did. Ended up going out as an independent and making a ton more money than he did working for somebody. And he was always the person they called when they couldn't figure out how to fix whatever machine that was sitting in the lot that kept the construction project from moving forward. But you got to try all these different things. So I think as it is with TACT, you have quite a range of things that they can try that allow them to pursue different interests and test this one, try this one. Do you like welding? That welding stuff sucks. I don't like welding. But those 3D printers are pretty cool. I like those 3D printers. Or the laser. That's another. I love lasers. Got too many of them sitting around the house already. Seriously, I got a couple. If I could say, what would I add into it? You need a microbiology lab.
Okay.
Seriously. I have a microbiology lab sitting right the next room over from here. And it's not that hard to do, but it's a whole nother arena to explore and to understand. And there certainly is a need for technicians in biosciences. Yeah, grow glowing bacteria. Do you know how easy it is to grow glowing bacteria? I could teach you in about 10 minutes how to grow glowing bacteria. But it's cool stuff. And then another thing I've gotten into from that was I'm now growing. I tried a couple times and I failed multiple times, but it was a special interest. I was determined. I didn't really give a rip how many times I failed. You throw that crap out and you just do it over again. And I'm now growing trumpet mushrooms.
Oh, cool.
And want to know how I started growing trumpet mushrooms? I went to Natural Grocers, Vitamin Cottage Natural Grocers. I bought a little tiny piece of $18 a pound trumpet mushrooms. And I tore it open, took the scalpel with a totally sterile blade, and I took a little piece out and I cultured the piece. And now, I don't know, I've harvested pounds of $18 a pound trumpet mushrooms. But again, it's not hard. It's just like learning anything else that's a trade. To me, it's like doing a trade, to be honest with you. It's just a matter of there's these factors that you have to work with. And just like, if you're measuring wood, okay, you got to remember that if that measuring tape, if the end doesn't move, you got a problem, because measuring inside versus outside, not going to work too well for you. So again, I'm just thinking kind of out loud of what else? How else could you expand it to give people abilities to try something that doesn't mean you have to bring in a whole industrial fab shop in order to be able to give them that experience?
You bring upon a good memory in the fact that, again, the Nashville thing there, Vanderbilt University is in Nashville, and they have a wonderful education program, and the whole university is it's great. And they had this experiment where they ended up, we call them malls in the South. It's like a courtyard, the little grassy area between buildings. And they took these tables and they just put buttloads of Legos on all these tables in the middle of the mall, full of Legos. And then they would walk. And they were watching, and weeks went by and nobody touched the Legos. And so all of the people watching were like, I don't understand. There's big things of tables full of Legos. Why is nobody playing with the Legos? So they started going up to the students. And they're like, I know, guys, what's going on? Like, I don't understand why aren't you playing with the Legos? And then the students all unanimously were like, there's no instructions. And how sad is that was their answer. There's no instructions. So they didn't even try. They didn't make anything. There was no creativity. I feel like you were talking about the erector sets and how do we give more opportunities for kids? We have to give them the opportunity to make things and just see what comes. And you're right. You don't need a full fab shop for that, but the opportunity to create, fail, try something new. I mean, at TACT, we want to do more trades. I mean, eventually want to get into more HVAC, EV cars, plumbing, I said HVAC already, culinary, all these different things that are, why not see if this is some kid's passion? I love doing the instrument making classes. I still make time to do that because it feels like it's still giving back to that music stuff that I love, where it feels like a double whammy for me to help a kid build an instrument and then also help them make art on that instrument. It's a twofer. So, then that one's one that I like.
So yeah, I think you have the key, and the key is exposing people, and it doesn't matter. I know don't do just kids, you do adults too. But exposing people to a range of experiences so they can find where their passion lies. And to me, that's the key. And what's going to happen to most people, happen to me, is your passions change over time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of autistics, we tend to keep the same passion for 5-10 years before it changes. But when it changes, we just put the old one aside, move on to the new one. And great, I got all those skills. Some days if I need it, great. I got all the cool tools and everything I need if I want to do one of those things. But now this is what really, really excites me. So I'm going to just go full bore at this new thing. And that's pretty much how my whole career track has worked, was just moving from one passion to the next passion. So I think, you have the key. Now the whole trick is, how can you expand it and, expose people to more of those things? I know right now one of the big things that industries are even willing to fund is there's not enough people that are technicians that know how to work in clean rooms. Right? The government just put billions and billions and billions, actually it's probably trillions of dollars, I think is really the real number, into bringing chip fabs back to the USA. Well, guess what? Those chip fabs need thousands and thousands and thousands of technicians, not the engineers. They need technicians.
Right.
And what's the number one thing that you need as the technician? How to work in a clean room and keep it clean. That's the number one thing you need, because everything else is just, we'll teach you another mechanical skill. Here's how you handle this piece. Somebody's got to go in and fix that stupid machine that has a bearing that went bad, but you got to do it in a clean room. How do you do it so you don't contaminate everything?
It's a really interesting point. Well, I'm just going to give this a subtle plug that North Carolina where I grew up, has the best silicon that they use for all of those chips anyway. So,
well, I know that Intel just, who is it? Is it Ohio? I don't know. There's one of the states that's doing a bunch of companies have said they're going to put fabs in there. And Intel just gave, I think it's Ohio, but maybe it's not Ohio. It's up in that general area if it's not Ohio.
Okay.
And Intel just gave something like $60 million to 90 different educational institutions. And the main thing they want is techs that know how to work in clean rooms.
Really? Huh. Well, now you got me thinking that, a humble nonprofit in Englewood, Colorado needs to explore that as a future trade for.
Right. I mean, it's definitely a trade. It's going to be a very high paying trade. And you need the other mechanical skills, because it's not just work in a clean room. Unfortunately, it's the mechanical skills and know how to work in a clean room. So you've got the leg up that you're already teaching the other, hands-on type skills. And clean room doesn't have to be a 10,000 or 100,000 foot factory. I mean, a clean room can be a 7 by 10 foot room.
Yeah. It's a really good point, Tim.
And then as long as you got a clean room, what the hell to put in the biology lab?
Let's leave it at that, my friend. Let's leave it at that. That sounds good.
But definitely, that would be an area I would say to look at. And it seems, I know Intel has put a lot of money into it. I'm sure the other companies that are, again, it's just, look at who's going after the federal funds for putting in I guess it was called the CHIPS Act, I think is actually the name of the legislative act. Just look at the companies that are going after the funding to build fabs. A lot of them are willing to try and prime the pump and get the employees they're going to need when these fabs are ready in 5 years or whatever. You don't build one of those babies overnight.
Yeah. That's one thing I'm really hoping keeps happening with TACT, is that we get those employers that, keep recognizing the workforce that's coming out with it, that we're producing, and start supporting us more. I mean, I think that's one thing that we've had going for us. But if that kind of thing, I mean, as a nonprofit, and for everybody listening to this, I mean, that's where we need more support. I think is we need more companies and more donors and all those things to support those opportunities. Like our program, 98.5% of the students that are there Monday through Friday are on scholarship. So if we can get businesses investing in their own future inventory of staff, I think that would be very valuable.
So how do we expand TACT from being it's no more a little thing? I've been to your facility. It's a pretty dang nice, good sized thing going on down there. But how do we expand from being a single location here in Denver to something that somebody living in Texas, California, New York, Florida, wherever, doesn't matter, has an opportunity to learn trades, get hands on?
we're trying to figure that out. And I know you and I had the pleasure of talking about this kind of offline one time. And I think the thing that we want to make sure is, we're so mission driven. I think that's at our core. We don't want to compromise that. So how do you maintain that mission, the way that we walk, the way that we talk, the way that we speak about our passion of our community and the ways that we're developing that community in a way that's authentic and genuine in all of those different locations by providing the same equality of opportunity in New York and Texas and wherever it goes. And I don't know if I'm at the point yet to trust other people in those states that I don't know to carry it in those states, which is kind of selfish to admit, but just being real. But then two, we want to have like those business partnerships, because such a big success part of TACT is creating that pathway to employment in all of, in this area that we're doing. How do we expand that? Like, let's just say we chose to expand for the rest of Colorado. If we go to Lyman or Vail or Fort Collins or Gunnison or wherever, then we want to set it up where the kids are coming through our program and have a place to go that creates that same equality of opportunity. And with businesses that believe in the culture. And so we wrestle with ourselves, like, does that come in the form of just planting the seeds and training and with individuals across those areas and start getting them to think like we're thinking and create training opportunities like we're doing? Does that come in the way of putting TACT into a neat little package box and, okay, this is what you need to do, and here's all the steps, and here's flow charts for intake and processes for lessons and scaffolding and how to communicate, what is neurodiversity, what is autism, what do we believe are our core values, and how do we practice that? How do we create those scholarships for kids to go there? Because as a dad, I just have a hard time with the idea of making it this program that goes out across the country and it's only there for parents that can somehow financially swing it. And it just feels disingenuous. Just before talking to you, I was giving a presentation for one of our supporters, and they have a great organization, and they had just helped another organization, and it was actually a chef that was presenting. And he'd been a chef and teaching their culinary arts program for 20 years. And now that this organization stepped in, they've created scholarships for all these kids to come to their program. And I've loved his vulnerability and honesty when he was speaking, because he's like, I've been doing it 20 years. I'm so proud of all the kids that, let's say kids, college age individuals placed into jobs through this program. He's like, my only regret is that the tuition was $40,000 a year for people to come, and all the people that could have come through that couldn't because they didn't have $40,000 a year to come to the program. And what he's excited about is all of a sudden the opportunity that there's these scholarships for kids.
I guess a couple thoughts come to mind. First off, I wouldn't use Colorado as the test market. And the reason I wouldn't use Colorado as the test market, for those of us that live here, we kind of understand how the geography works. For those of you who don't, there is one major city in Colorado. It's called Denver. And it's I don't know, what is it, 4 million or something now? Metro area, 5 million? I don't know.
Over 5. I heard it's over 5.
Wow. Yeah. So you have that. Then the next biggest city is Colorado Springs, which doesn't even hit 1 million. What is it? Like 700, 800,000, something like that.
It's so small comparatively.
And then I think the next one is Pueblo, which barely would rate as being a big town if we were to put it into most major states. So it's hard to really say how would we expand in Colorado, because there's not another ecosystem like Denver in Colorado. It's not like going to most states where there's multiple major metro areas that could support a similar ecosystem. So we do have a unique challenge in Colorado because of what brings us here in the first place. It's wide open and there's not a huge amount of people except sitting in Denver and so on and so forth.
It's so true.
That would be the first thing I would say is you just have to go to environments that are similar to the environment that it thrives in, which is a major metro area that has large numbers of employers in very large range of industries. And that is not most of Colorado. That happens to be Denver. It's like going to Wyoming. It ain't going to handle it in Cheyenne, Wyoming. If you've never been to Cheyenne, Wyoming, anybody, it's a gorgeous little town. I think you could walk from one end of the city to the other in probably 15, 20 minutes. And that is the biggest city in the entire state.
100,000 people or something like that in that state. That's the biggest one. You're right.
Right. So I think that's one is you've got to look at environments that have a similar ecosystem, first off. Secondly, and this is something that took me years and years and years to finally realize, that virtually anything I do, there's other people that can do it better than I can.
It's true.
Now, are their motivations the same as mine are? No. But they can still do it better than I can do it. Does it matter what their motivation is if they can have a better outcome than I can have?
Yeah.
Who cares what their motivation is? Their motivation, that's personal. I mean, we all grew up, we had different experiences, we had different things as far as what the motivation was. So you've got to really say, is this person willing to do what is necessary to do to make the venture viable?
Yeah.
And who cares whether that's because they have a kid with autism, they're autistic themselves, they have nothing to do with autism, but they were a special ed teacher and saw kids dealing with this and suffering with this for 10 decades, whatever it is. So I would say that is, you can't expect somebody to be you and have your motivation. You can only look for people that would do the quality level you want, which is essentially franchising is the model. And I'm not saying do it as a for-profit like franchising, but franchising is really the model. Does McDonald's expect everybody to have the same outlook, thought, motivation that Ray Kroc had when he created McDonald's? And the answer is no. They have, this is the standard. Can you meet this standard of what we expect you to do to deliver what McDonald's is all about? Yeah. And if the motivation is because you want to be a gazillionaire and have 3,000 McDonald's, well, great. If you could deliver that quality level, we really don't care what your motivation is. So I would say that would be another piece that I would look at is simply, everybody's going to have a different motivation, but are they willing to do what you feel it is that makes tact be tact? And as far as the last part of what if it has to be for pay versus doing lots of scholarships? Yeah. Okay, I agree. Just because I'm autistic doesn't mean I'm cold-hearted. Some people will think so, but it's not true. Us autistics are not totally cold-hearted. We actually do tend to have what we refer to as cognitive empathy. You won't see it, but we feel empathetic nonetheless. Actually, we don't feel empathetic. We think empathetic, which is a whole other story by itself. But true. I agree that's terrible that the kid from the single mom family and mom's just working her ass off trying to, just make ends meet, can't afford the tuition. But what about the 100,000 kids that can afford it that don't get the opportunity because you're not there for them to pay the money?
It's true.
So you can't look at just who misses out because you've got to look at who's it serving. And if it's serving that many people, what's the chance that other people are going to start supporting it that you then can start giving the opportunities? So I wouldn't look at it as being that when you first roll into a new area that you can do all tuitions at the level you are now. Right. The question is, can you make the facility viable that it can afford to exist? Even though it's nonprofits, for all of you who have never done anything with nonprofits, guess what? They need money too. They have to pay bills. Electricity costs money. You have to have people that show up, run the place. They actually want wages to eat, believe it or not. So if it can be viable, and if it's viable on a for-profit basis versus a and I say for-profit, not meaning a for-profit company, but non-profit, but with tuitions to attend. Yeah. And that can get it established in a location, you've already now helped more people than would have been helped if you didn't establish it in that location.
No, that's a good way to frame it, Tim.
And when you think about it, how many people could you have supported on tuitions when you first started? Was it 8 years ago now?
We shared the idea in April of 2016, became incorporated in June of 2016. So 7 years.
7 years. So how many people on tuitions could you support then versus how many people on tuition waivers can you support now?
Yeah.
And the answer was not very many back then. Just trying to keep the doors open was a challenge. So again, you have to look at it as you can't expect it to start where you are right now unless you can find a major benefactor like, hey, Bill Gates or you two Google dudes or Elon or any of them who
are listening right now and want to support it and make it happen. You never know, right?
Right. But in that case, then, yes, you could. But on the other hand, if you were to look at it just from the business plan, okay, yes, it would be nice to be able to give tuition waivers and allow people to come on that way with scholarships. But would it still be an improvement to people's lives and beneficial to humanity if it was only for parents that could afford to pay, at least to get it started for the first few years?
Yeah. I like the way you look at things, Tim. That's why I like talking to you, my friend. You always make me think. I like that.
Well, I learned a long time ago, the way I put it, again, this is kind of the philosophical answer is, if you and I decided we wanted to go to New York City, God forbid, I don't know why we want to go to New York City, but we decide we want to go to New York City. Do we have to know every turn that we're going to make along the way and every pit stop for gas? Well, maybe with an EV, we need to know every pit stop. But if we're running gasoline, we don't need to know every pit stop by any means. Right? I mean, all we have to do is say, hey, New York City, that's where we want to go. Which way is east? And there's these things called signs along the way. And you just kind of follow them. And as you go, you refine as you get closer and closer. And I guess I just see too many people that are, and I'm not saying you've done this, you've certainly kind of figured out your way as you've gone, but just think back. Why not just think of it the same way as when you started? Well, good. If I can figure out how can I get a facility there, okay, if it's got to be for pay, good, it's for pay. But hey, at least I got 30 kids coming in that are learning skills that wouldn't have learned skills otherwise. And who knows? Maybe one of those 30 kids, maybe mom is a CEO of some major company and, suddenly you got a benefactor.
It's interesting because you think back on those moments too. And it's interesting, like, it's nice to think back because there's all those moments that seem so monumental and you always want to hold on to them and not lose them. But like, I remember our very first open house, like all the families that showed up and you're like, wow, how did even these people know who we are, what we're doing? And the first kids that come through and the first kid you get a job. And then the first time you see a parent cry when they see their kid getting successful, like all those first seem so monumental. It's easy to get lost in wanting to do more where, like right now, TACT has 100 kids on our waiting list. There's such a demand and there's going to be more, there's going to keep being more. And you put like a pressure, I shouldn't say it. I mean, maybe right or wrong for whatever reason, there feels like a pressure where it's like, I know that what we're doing is working. I want it to be more attainable for more families. I want more kids to get served. I want more businesses to witness the beauty of our community. All of those things. And I think you bring a good point that it's important to take the time to reflect on that and be like, yes, what can we do in those different spots? I see your point completely. I think you're right.
It's planting seeds when you think of it. When you plant a seed somewhere, you don't suddenly have an oak tree. You've got a little tiny sprout and you've got to nurture it. But if you don't plant the seed and nurture it, there's not going to be an oak tree there in 50 years. And you just look at it, from that standpoint. You can't look at it at the standpoint of, I need to duplicate exactly what I have the way it's running somewhere else. No, you've got to plant it and nurture it and grow it somewhere else. And the important part is that I would say that it maintains the vision and the substance of what TACT is about. Who cares what the person's motivations are that are helping it get there? If it's maintaining the vision and the essence of what TACT is about, hey, we all have different motivations for doing what we do.
It's true. That's true.
So there you go. You've got my philosophical lecture for the day. So tell me, I'm going to switch subjects on you. Not that I don't think there's a million more things we could talk about TACT, because there is a million more things we could talk about TACT, and I think you've got one of the coolest programs going, because I love the trades in spite of the fact that Dad thought I should be a white collar worker all my life. I love tools, and I'll admit I'm a toolaholic. I'm addicted, and I went to Tool Anonymous, and it did not work. But the Colorado Neurodiversity Chamber of Commerce, which you're one of the co-founders of the Colorado Neurodiversity Chamber of Commerce. Tell everybody a little bit about what is it? What's it about? What's the goal? Where are you going with it?
I love that you brought that up. Thank you so much. So, the whole way that came about was really so organic and so fantastic. So started it with Dr. Amanda Kelly and Tiffany Feingold. And the whole conversations first started where the three of us were putting together the idea of a job fair, where we're like, okay, why don't we get together and pool our resources together and see if we can bring in a bunch of employers and see if we can create some opportunities. And so we met a few times and we talked about that. And at the time, TACT had won a Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Award, and had been hearing about all these different chambers. And then the conversation became like, hey, there is a women's chamber of commerce. There's a Black chamber of commerce. There's an LGBTQ plus chamber of commerce. There's this diversity of chambers. Why isn't there a neurodiversity chamber of commerce? And it's, again, one of those moments when it seems so logical and like, wait, what? This isn't a thing. And it was the same lawyers that helped us start TACT. They did research too and validated that there's nothing, which it's wild to think we started in 2022. How is it that it made it that long without one? I don't know. But the chamber is such an incredible opportunity in a different capacity than TACT, but for businesses, especially, and for individuals and entrepreneurs that exist within the neurodistinct community to really start coming together and representing business and that economic equality in a way that hasn't been reached before. And I think it offers a stage and gives them a legislative component, a governance component, a financial component in so many different ways. And hopefully that equates to the next level. And I think as we start moving forward, we've already had so many businesses join the chamber, which has been really neat. Everything from banking to pharmaceutical to medical to the zoo to government. I mean, different ways of, I think, where our community is being recognized, and separating that from an advocacy group, because it's not an advocacy group. And I think that's where I hope people see the difference between a chamber and an advocacy group and what that equates and looks like to in business. I think it's really neat. So I think it's just getting started. I mean, it's still such in its infancy, where we just got it going last September. And so it's May. So we're less than a year in. And I think it's neat in the sense that it feels like neurodiversity is starting to be recognized. And I think businesses are hungry and to learn more, which is always a heads up, right? I mean, it's always a leg up, I should say, in the sense that businesses are hungry to learn more. And I hope that we can be good stewards of that with the chamber and empowering autistic individuals or neurodivergent individuals to advocate or speak for themselves in that business sense, not in the sense of an advocacy group, but as a business person or entrepreneur, that kind of opportunity.
Yeah, I think the big thing that businesses are starting to realize, which this really gives them big advantages to utilize it, is the neurodistinct already work for them. They're already in their businesses.
They're already there.
The problem is they're not utilizing, and I don't say it's superpowers. Yeah, some neurodistinct individuals have amazing powers and skills, but some neurotypicals have amazing powers and skills. It's the unique perspective that they bring. And whether that unique perspective is just a rabid interest in whatever it is that the company does, like you were talking about with the classic cars, or whatever why do we want diversity in general? We want diversity because we want a whole range of perspectives, because then we can mix them and match them and come up with the best perspective for the business. But instead, unfortunately, neurodistinct individuals in most companies are forced to not to be their true selves and express their own unique perspectives because they get ostracized for those unconventional perspectives. But the funny part is those unconventional perspectives have things like rockets that now land themselves. I just read it's like 268 in a row, or 268 launches that have all worked. Okay, some didn't land right, but then NASA scientists said that it was impossible. So
I actually had the privilege of, I do space stuff for the Air Force too, and being part of some of those launches myself and watching firsthand. You watch a rocket land on a boat in the ocean. It's unbelievable. And I mean, like, it is just the coolest thing in the world. And you're right. We need the diversity of thought to make stuff like that possible, because what's even coming 10 years down the road, I can't wait to see.
Right. Yeah. We need these people who, this is one of the things that has been my strength, and at times maybe my weakness is, this sounds cool. I'm sure I can do it. I'm going to try.
Yeah.
And sometimes it works and cool stuff happens, and sometimes it doesn't work and you step back and do something different instead. But it's that willing to try it instead of saying, oh, this is a cool idea, but I got like this responsibility and that responsibility, and I can't, and it never happens. Nobody tries it.
It's the truth.
What do they say? Gosh, I can't remember how the saying goes. The horrible paraphrase, because I don't remember how the saying goes, but something like, what's the most valuable piece of property in the world?
Your thought.
The most valuable piece of property in the world is a graveyard, because it's buried full of all these wonderful thoughts that could have been that people never took the trouble to do anything about.
That's an interesting note. We can't end it on that note, my friend. We have to take.
No, that's a good one, though. When you think about it, it's like, man, don't take this stuff to the graveyard with you. Be willing, be bold, be willing to stand out and say, hey, this is an unconventional idea, but hey, this is what I think. This is my idea. Please at least consider it. This is the way I always say when somebody says, what makes you feel like you belong? It's when people will consider the ideas I have as if they could potentially be the answer. I'm not saying it has to be the answer, and I'm not saying I'm right most of the time, but at least evaluate it like you would evaluate somebody else's idea of, maybe there's something there. Let's take a look and see if there's really something there, instead of saying, no, we don't do stuff like that here. Next.
No, that's a great point. And that's bad leadership too, when you hear that.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's all too common leadership, though.
Yeah, that is the truth.
Well, if somebody wanted to reach out to you and give you, a couple of $1 billion so we can just solve this whole problem worldwide, or for any reason that they wanted to contact you, whether it's learn more about the neurodiversity changeover commerce, whether it's learn more about TACT, whether it's saying that they can help you in some way expand either or both, how would they contact you?
Thanks. So our website would be the best way for sure. So TACT is buildwithtact.org. And the Colorado Neurodiversity Chamber of Commerce is just the initials, so cndcc.org. Those are definitely the best ways to do it. I think, we've got smart people on the team. That there's also like an Instagram and all that kind of fun stuff. But I'll be honest with you, I'm not on Instagram ever. I don't get Instagram, so I'm sure.
I don't think I even have an account, so I'm with you.
No,
but
yeah.
If you want to get me those, and I'll take the ones that you gave us already, and I'll put them down in the show notes. So if you want to talk to one of those people that actually know what you do on Instagram, which is not me, I'll put them in the show notes also, because there are, I'm sure, lots of our listeners that do use those particular social media channels. So yeah, just get them to me and I'll put them in the show notes. Well, this has been so wonderful. It's kind of crazy. We live in the same town, for those that don't know. Danny and I live, I don't know, 20 miles apart or something like that.
Yeah, if that, yeah.
And we've heard about each other, and we've known about each other for 5 years. I don't know, something like that. And we just got to meet for the first time ever a few months ago. And it's been just phenomenal and great. Just kind of funny, though, how long we both knew of each other, said great things about each other, but never got to meet each other.
Well, it's been such an honor, Tim. I just really appreciate you very much and all the work you're doing. And thank you for having me on the podcast. I really appreciate it. It's a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you. And thanks for the wonderful stuff you're doing.
Thank you.
We hope that you've enjoyed another episode of Life in a Neurotypical Universe. Please, if you enjoyed this, share it with your friends. Go take their phone and subscribe them. It will help us all out. If you want to know more about neurodiversity or have any questions for me, you can reach me at my website, timgoldstein.com, where I'll be more than glad to help you as best I can to navigate through the neurotypical universe.